Welcome back for Bhagavatam. We're starting chapter 7 on part 3. We got an amazing section. So this is really, you don't need any back story for this. It's Vidura's questions now to Maitreya after he's heard Maitreya explain some stuff. If you just jump into the story at this point, it's totally fine because these questions are so deep that they start a whole new thing. So Vidura, the wise child of Vyas. Don't forget that Vidura is the child of Vyas, so he's not stupid at all. He posed some questions in a very pleasant and humble way. He wanted to know why the finite world could attract and contain the infinite consciousness of the Supreme and the individual souls. So this is Vidura's question after hearing Maitreya explain how the universe evolves and becomes capable of hosting or sustaining life. Thanks, Ms. Vinay. Everybody knows it's amazing. So after hearing that, Vidura wonders why. Why would consciousness want to be projected into? Why would consciousness want to have something external able to host it when that external thing is subject to limitations and creations and destructions? It's a very good question, right? So Glenn Burns, Radhe. So he says, the all-attractive, here's Maitreya's answer. He says, the all-attractive is the changeless, unlimited spiritual... this is Vidura's question, sorry. The all-attractive is a changeless, unlimited spiritual substance. Why would he limit himself? By creating the cosmos and becoming its prototype life form. Super question, right? This thing, usually you make an effort for something new that you would gain from that you don't have. Why nobody really makes an effort to lose something? So the structures that can host life in a universe, they seem a bit inferior to Vidura because they have to be created, maintained, and destroyed with effort. It's not effortless. So he's wondering, why would a changeless, unlimited spiritual consciousness want to come into this thing which is full of change and limitation? And he's asking in both senses, why did the supreme consciousness manifest this? And why did the individual conscious beings like you and me, why did we come into this situation? So, thank you, everybody. So what do you think Maitreya's answer is going to be? Question again is, the all-attractive is changeless, unlimited spiritual substance. Why would he limit himself by creating the cosmos and becoming its prototype life form? Maitreya's answer is, it's just play. What's his answer? He's just playing around. He likes to play. So he does things. Now Vidura is a little shocked by the answer. So he says, play? Why would he play? Little children play. Little children try to fulfill their needy desires, and they get themselves into trouble by playing. But the all-attractive is self-satisfied, eternally without want or need. I don't understand why he would play. So Vidura says, what do you mean by play? I know kids play. Kids play trying to get something. They want to be the best, or they want to feel better than their friends. They know more than their friends, or they're more expert than their friends, or they're better at this sport than their friends, and that's why they play. So, my God, everybody knows. How does everybody know it's my birthday? Thank you. But he wants to know, why would the all-attractive play? Those little kids play. Why would the all attractive play? So Maitreya says he's not playing because he's needy. He's playing with needy people. So that might sometimes happen when an adult plays with a child. You might play baseball with the kids, and then you're not really trying to like be better than them. You're just trying to facilitate their play, right? So Maitreya's answer is something along those lines. He says it's the individual souls who are needy, and they get themselves into trouble by trying to play with things. That's their play. The way that Vidura was thinking of play, of how little kids play to be better, etc., and then they get into trouble and they start to fight with each other. That's how the individual consciousness plays with the limited world. But the all attractive also plays in trying to, he says, endeavoring to rescue them from these troubles. This play is not motivated by need, but by love. He does not even directly touch the external world. He indirectly empowers individual souls who want to play with it through his mystic power. So he's actually not really playing with this world. He doesn't directly play with it, but he empowers other beings to play with it on his behalf. And how does he play? He plays the rescuer, the fireman, or whatever in the story. The guy who rescues people. Why is the rescuer needed? Because these other kids want to play with this stuff, which is dangerous stuff. That's good, Glenn. Actually, I think play is the perfect word for it, right? Because it's lila. Lila means play. And it's an expression of fullness. But in this sense, Vidura is saying, I don't see how you apply the word play to this situation, which is a limitation on the creativity. Right? His whole question is, why would something which is already better come into something which is more difficult? Why is the unlimited changeless spiritual substance coming into something that's always subject to change and is always limiting and not fully pliable to your desires? Like if you're in creativity, well, why would you use like bad paint when you could use good paint? And so when Maitreya answers that it's play, Vidura kind of doesn't really get it, doesn't understand. Like, if you say, why does this artist use this lousy paint? And then the answer is, it's because it's creative. You'll be like, what creative? What's creative about it? Why not use the good paint? It's easier to be creative with that. That's the kind of question and answer that's going on here. Vidura asks why the spirit would get involved in matter, and Maitreya says it's play. And Vidura says, I don't understand how that's play. And then Maitreya is answering a bit. So Maitreya's answer is, the individual souls want to play with it. Get it? And of course, the question is going to come up, why do they want to play with this stuff? Why do they like this kind of paint? And Maitreya is going to answer that as well. But for now, he's only said, the individual souls want to play with it. Therefore, Bhagavan, the Supreme Soul, also plays with it to help the kids play. Now Vidura's question is, what about the individual soul? It is also composed of comprehensive awareness that cannot be extinguished at any time, in any place, or any circumstance. So how can it come under the influence of ignorance? It's a fragment of the blissful all attractive, so how can it get involved in deeds and bring misfortune and misery? This confusion is like a dungeon encaging my mind. Please free me from it. It's a cool analogy, isn't it? Vidura says that his confusion is like a dungeon encaging his mind. His confusion is, all right, so you said that the individual souls wind up wanting to play with this inferior kind of Play-Doh. And that's why Bhagavan also gets, that's why Bhagavan manifests it fully and gets involved with it. So he doesn't directly want to play with this stuff, but he plays because the kids want to play with it. But what about those kids? Those kids are just the same quality as Bhagavan. So what made them want to play with this inferior creative medium? That's his question now. What those individual souls that you say, those are the ones that want to play with Maya. Why would they want to play with Maya? Their comprehensive awareness that cannot be extinguished. Why would they want to subject themselves to creation and destruction? How can it come under the influence of ignorance? It's comprehensive awareness that cannot be extinguished. How can it get affected by ignorance? Thinking of itself as something that it's not. It's a fragment of the blissful all attractive, so how can it get involved in misfortune? It's full of bliss. It's a fragment of bliss. So how can it get involved in something that's karma and bringing it difficulty and stress and misery? I can't understand this, he says. I can't understand why a consciousness which is free and unlimited and happy would get involved in an existence that's limiting and difficult and stressful. Please explain it. Now, the scholar Maitreya seems struck with wonder to hear such a penetrating, astute question. So, in other words, this is a good question. But by focusing his heart upon, and it's not an easy question to answer, Maitreya has to try to focus really carefully to answer this question. So, by focusing his heart upon the all-attractive, he overcame his amazement and began to reply. So Maitreya's reply is this: you're right. It contradicts all logic to claim that an unlimited entity can become limited as a result of ignorance and illusion. So just make sure you understand that, especially if you want to get a clear philosophical understanding of Bhagavatam's worldview. Make sure you understand that it is illogical. Maitreya has just said it is totally illogical to say that an unlimited entity can become limited. It's just illogical. And it's illogical to say that an entity which is full of knowledge could become subject to illusion or ignorance. Okay? So you can't really have the point of view that once you were full of knowledge and happiness and now you're not. Because if you lost that condition of knowledge and happiness, then you couldn't have really had it in the first place. That's not the quality of knowledge and happiness, is that it can be lost. So there must be something else. The explanation must be something else. Not that once upon a time you were perfect, but then you made a mistake. That's illogical. So how does he deal with it? How does he deal with the fact that he's saying that these totally infinite beings like you and me are now engrossed in a finite existence and mystified by it, confused by it? How do you explain that then? So he says the logical conclusion, therefore, is that the soul's loss of knowledge is only apparent. It is illusory, like seeing one's own head being chopped off. That's what Maitreya said. The soul becoming confused is similar to a person seeing his own head getting chopped off. Thank you so much, Anil. So think about that idea of seeing your own head get chopped off. You can't see your own head get chopped off. You can only imagine what it would look like. So, like, for example, if you're having a dream and you see your head get chopped off in the dream, that proves to you that it's a dream. you might see, if your head gets chopped off, you might have a moment or two of vision, but you cannot see your head getting chopped off. Um, and our capacity to imagine it proves it is not actually happening. But this is what Maitreya's analogy is trying to say. If you can see yourself being an illusion, then you're not really an illusion. And if you are aware that you're unaware, then you're actually aware, right? So the fact that the soul is aware of ignorance proves that it is not actually in the quality of ignorance. It's actually awareness, but it has adopted an awareness of ignorance. The logical conclusion is the soul's loss of knowledge is only apparent. It's an illusion, like seeing one's own head being cut off. We can't really see our own heads being cut off. We can only imagine what it would look like. And our capacity to imagine proves it's not actually happening. Similarly, the soul's capacity to experience ignorance demonstrates that it remains full of awareness. And then Maitreya gives another analogy that's very helpful. He says, when the moon reflects on water, the moon seems to shake and quiver. But in truth, only the water quivers, the moon in the sky does not. This is how the seer sees ignorance and limitation within himself, although it is not truly within himself. So if you project your consciousness, if you put on the glasses that are blinders on the side, then you won't be able to see your full field of vision. But you don't lose the power of sight. Even if you just stay in a pitch black room, you don't lose the power of sight, and you're aware of blackness. So similarly, to be ignorant doesn't mean that the soul has lost its quality of consciousness. It means just that this consciousness is now projected into an ignorant filter. And to be temporary and be created and destroyed doesn't mean that the soul has lost its eternality. It's just that it's projecting its eternality into structures that come and go. But still, I hope that Maitreya is going to answer the question of why would the soul project itself into a tool that's going to limit it, and right? Let me see. Let me look ahead and see. He doesn't really answer it here, but Kapila is going to answer this. So you just hold on to that question, because later on in the third canto, Kapila is going to explain this basic same topic to his mother, and he's definitely clearly going to answer why. And it's not like it's a choice or anything like that either. It's just a result of inherent disposition to things, and aspect or orientation, and how the aspect you're at causes you to see a certain thing. The orientation that you have causes you to see a certain thing. The orientation is the individuality of consciousness. So Kapila's answer, in short, we'll explore it more fully. Let's not get into it right now, but we'll explore it more fully when we get to Kapila's thing. But in short, Kapila's answer is some conscious beings are aware of this Mayic substance. That's what they're aware of. They're not aware of Bhagavan. They're not aware of anything else. They're aware of Maya. And because of that, they project themselves into Maya. You project yourself onto the thing which you see. And it's because there's individuality in the consciousness that it's oriented towards different things. Some things are aware of Bhagavan. Some things are not. Yeah, this is a really amazing section. Actually, but I wish that it was kind of like compiled so that the whole discussion was fully covered here. But it kind of grows. So by the time we get to Kapila's conversation with his mother, he'll review all these things that Maitreya said also, and then add in the missing parts. All right, now Vidura. Now Maitreya is still explaining something. He's got another point to make. So his point is, ignorance is not actually a part of the eternal soul, and therefore it's something that you can get out of. So since the ignorance is not a true part of the soul, it's something that the soul is believing it is. Like looking at the moon on water, you think that the moon might be shaking. Or projecting yourself in, putting yourself in a dark room, you might think that you're blind. but actually you are actually seeing blackness, or you're seeing the water. So actually the soul itself doesn't change. It still has this full potentiality of being completely cognizant and perfect and blissful. So therefore it is possible for it to get disentangled. So even though it has its orientation towards Maya, towards extrinsic things, and not towards Bhagavan, it's possible for it to reorient. So since ignorance is not truly a part of the eternal soul, we can escape for it. We can escape from it. How, Vidura would ask. So Maitreya explains, by the affectionate glance of Vasudev's son, ignorance disappears. So basically that's the role that Vasudev or Bhagavan is playing. What he's playing in Maya is the rescuer, right? So that's the role that he plays by glancing, by caring about the people that are here. He gives them the opportunity to experience. There's Bhagavan. I could be aware of something else. There's an experienceable entity. That's consciousness itself. I could experience consciousness directly as an experienceable entity, Bhagavan, not just its extrinsic form divorced of its substance, which is Maya. So by showing himself, by glancing at them, actually, he causes them to see him. By the affectionate glance of Vasudev's son, ignorance disappears, Maitreya says. We avail of that grace. But you have to avail of the grace. You have to want the grace, otherwise it's not grace, it's force. He can't just come in. Remember that all of consciousness is totally autonomous and divine, equally to Bhagavan. So Bhagavan can't just take you and change you. It's literally not possible. So he can't even change the way that you're looking. It's not until you decide or you want something different. So what Bhagavan is just doing is making it available. Then the individual souls have to avail of what's available. So now Maitreya says we avail of that grace by disassociating with the unreal, reflected self, and forming a real identity, lovingly related to the all-attractive. So basically you stop projecting identity into the external circumstance and start projecting it into Bhagavan instead. You start projecting your identity into Bhagavan, just as you currently do onto your shoes, your clothes, your body, your friends, your family. As we form this identity, our senses cease to hunger for pleasure, and instead seek the pleasure of Hari. The nature of the consciousness itself is to be a pleasure seeker. That's not going to change. That's the fundamental nature of consciousness. But it will cease to hunger for pleasure in external things and start to find pleasure in Bhagavan. And then he describes Bhagavan as the ultimate root of the ever-seeing self. It's the ultimate root of the ever-seeing self who charms and attracts with his unique glance upon us. Thus our nightmare of ignorance and misery completely ceases. Prabhupada's videos ask, can we get grace of Bhagavan without giving up our autonomy? Of course. The autonomy is an inextinguishable part of consciousness. That's what makes you jiva. That's what makes you a living thing. What Maitreya is saying is, instead of projecting your autonomy onto your divorced, independent life in the external world, project your autonomy into the root of itself. Project your autonomy into the root of yourself, into Bhagavan. So the autonomy never ceases. That's kind of weird. But you engage. It depends on what you engage your autonomy in. If you engage your autonomy in selfish, Bhagavan divorced, independent life, then you get one kind of result in the world of karma. If you engage your autonomy, like what is love? Love is to engage your autonomy in the person whom you love. Love isn't passive. You just sit around and do nothing. You do something. You engage your autonomy. No, my voice is okay. Um, Hi, Bardo. Thank you. Videos. If we think we're Purusha, aren't we really offending the real Purusha? And that's kind of who said to. First of all, you are Purusha. You're Purusha in relation to Prakriti, but you're Prakriti in relation to Purusha. So you're something called marginal or Tatastha because you have qualities of both Prakriti and Purusha. You are the Purusha which can be observed by Purusha. And that's just what you are. You're not Prakriti. You're not a guna. You're not a quality of Maya. So when a Purusha means a person, when a person gives themselves to another person, then they become the Prakriti of that person. But you lose your wealth and value if you don't become if you give up being a Purusha. You give your Purushahood to the person whom you love. You don't extinguish your personhood and then give the person you love some kind of a dead shell. What if I said, I love you, so I'm going to kill myself and give you my dead body? That's gross and freaking crazy. That's insane. No, but if I say, I love you, I'm going to give my whole self to you. That's normal. That's the way love works, right? So the individual Purushas, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam, there's no hard division between the Param Purusha and the other Purushas. The individual Purushas, they give themselves to the Supreme Purusha. So now Vidura's got a question. What inspires the soul to turn from familiar pleasure with the eternal sense of the external senses and instead seek the pleasure of Hari? Thank you so much, guys. So here's Vidura's question. All right, so the affection of Vasudeva is available in the external world. And the individual souls who are absorbed in the external world can, if they so desire, avail themselves of that affection and then start to develop sambandha or relationship to Vasudeva. But now Vidura's question is, what would make any one of them want that? They're absorbed in the external world for a reason. Because they like it. They're interested in it. So what would make a soul, an individual conscious being, change their mind? What would inspire them to change their desire? Stop seeking external pleasure and start seeking Bhagavan. So Maitreya's answer to that is, it all depends on what advertising you're exposed to. Is what it boils down to. The products which you desire depend upon the advertising that you're exposed to. Actually, it's really incredible how much influence advertising or the words that people tell us, the things that people tell us, the things that our parents tell us, the things that friends tell us that we are or that we aren't. It's amazing how much effect that has on what we think we want. Because basically what you want is dependent upon what you know about. And what you know about is dependent upon what you've heard about. So the things which are advertised to us, whether literally by advertising or by other people saying, this is what you should be, this is what you should want, this is what you should have, this is what is worth, right? That gives us our sense of information about what's desirable, and then that causes our desire. So what Maitreya says is, guess what? A soul will change. Souls change their desires all the time because they're not getting fully fulfilled. If your desire was getting fully fulfilled, it would get locked onto the thing which fulfills it and never drift away from it. But because the material world doesn't provide that kind of fulfillment, because it's temporary. So even when it does deliver the intensity or the quality of what you want, it doesn't last. So because of that, the souls are always changing and they're always listening to new advertisements. And so Maitreya says, if it so happens that they hear an advertisement about Bhagavan, that's when the things change for them. So he says, when a soul hears descriptions of Murari's qualities, that's another name for Bhagavan, it becomes inspired towards passionate, loving service to his lotus feet. And this is the beginning of the road to indescribable bliss, Adao Shraddha. That's, I think Rupa Goswami put it in those words, that the whole path of bhakti starts from Shraddha. That's different, sorry. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Shravanam comes first. Got my quotes mixed up. What comes first is to hear about something. Then when you hear about something, you start to speak about it. And then when you're hearing about it and speaking about it, you constantly dwell on it and think about it. And that causes the meditation to happen. All right, so Vidura now declares, oh, you are blessed. Your powerful words so expertly stated permeate my mind and remove all confusion. So he's pretty happy with Maitreya's answer. He says, wow, it feels like my mind has been permeated by your answer and it's not confused anymore. You freed me from my dungeon of confusion. Your excellent answer explains that loss of true self-awareness, which is the root of illusory existence in this limited world. It is a rootless thing, based on nothing except the magic of Hari. Make sure you get this part clear, otherwise you won't understand Vedantic philosophy about the origin of everything, the origin of souls or anything like that. He says, your excellent answer explains that the loss of true self-awareness is lossless. It's not a loss. It's an illusion of loss. The root of illusory existence is rootless. If you refuse to accept that, you won't be able to have a grasp of the true Vedantic philosophy. The root of illusory existence in this limited world is a rootless thing based on nothing except the magic of Hari. The magic is the Maya, or the illusion, or the ability of the soul to think that it's something which it's not. Magic means thinking something happened, but it didn't happen. Or not knowing how something happened. So magic, this type of magic means not knowing what a thing really is. The magic of Hari enables a soul to feel like it's some character in a drama that it wants to be a part of. It has not actually become that character, but by the magical power of Hari, its consciousness can get fully absorbed into that character. But because it's never actually becomes that character, it can also get free from those characters. Let's see how much more is in this. Okay, let's get to the end of this section. The Vidura is going to have a flood of questions, is the name of the next section. So after he gets this question thoroughly taken care of, he's going to have a flood of other questions. Alas, he suddenly cried pitifully, Vidura. Vidura is a very emotional person. He really wears his heart on his sleeve compared to the other guys because he doesn't have a lot of pretense to keep up. He's just a simple maidservant's son. So he's allowed to just express himself wildly. So he's more expressive than the rest of the Kshatriyas. Anyway, he says, alas, crying pitifully, happiness seems to belong to this is a great one. Happiness seems to belong to the most wise and the most foolish. This is the saying of ignorance is bliss. So ignorance belongs to the most foolish. Happiness belongs to the most foolish and the most wise, and suffering belongs to those stuck in between. That's a great quote from Vidura. Happiness seems to belong to the very wise and the very foolish, and suffering belongs to those who are stuck in between, like me, he says. I know the external world is based on illusion. So in other words, what he's saying is, wow, if you're totally absorbed in the external Maya, you can be really happy. It's very exciting. And if you're totally absorbed in Bhagavan, you can be very happy. So happiness belongs both to the very wise, the people that are really absorbed in the real world, and both to the very foolish, the people that are completely absorbed in the fake world. They both are happy. But suffering belongs to those who are stuck in between, like me. People who are in transit between fascination with the external world and moving towards fascination with Bhagavan. I know the external world is based on an illusion and therefore without true value, and I am convinced that misfortune cannot permanently overtake the soul, but I suffer because I cannot yet fully realize these truths. So he's saying this is the problem that I have. I know about Bhagavan and I know about the true soul, and therefore I don't really want to get involved in illusory existence, but I can't fully get out of it. That's why I'm suffering. Getting some confidence, Vidura looks up and continues. Nevertheless, I will conquer this challenge by serving at your feet. Service at the feet of blessed souls gives rise to powerful, joyful affection for Krishna, who is forever situated in our innermost being. His sweetness humbles honey, and he destroys all our ignorance and distress. It will be a rare fortune for a person like me, who performs very little austerity, to get the opportunity to serve people like you, who walk the fearless spiritual path, always singing about the divinity of divinities, the joy of all people. So wow, Vidura is amazing. Maitreya is also pretty amazing. So now after this, Vidura is very, very happy. He got full confidence in Maitreya. Now he's going to just unload a whole bunch of new questions on him, but we'll cover that tomorrow. So tomorrow, basically, we'll hear a whole flood of new questions. So it'll basically be like a coming attraction for the rest of the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And I'll see you tomorrow.